With the quarterfinals on the horizon, it got me thinking, what is my dream team of players at this World Cup? Who would I love to see play together? Now, this isn't necessarily who I think are the best players. More so, who do I get the most excited about watching? Things like passion, X Factor, and not being Welsh are all pretty key factors for me. Starting us off, I've got Genge at loosehead. It kills me to pick a Pom, but this guy is a weapon. I've seen him body so many world-class players, it's just absurd. Just ask Michael Hooper. He moves like a freaking rhino and more often than not breaks the gain line, leaving a trail of blood and bruises. And what would a prop be without their scrumming ability? Genge seriously has it all. Not many people have gotten the better of Tide Furlong, but this man managed. When he's switched on, he's a machine. At hooker, I've got to go with the Georgian veteran Mamukashvili, and if you're not familiar with the blessing that is this man's beard, let me introduce you. This guy is a front rower at heart and just loves scrums. Nothing could make him happier than to squeeze his head into a stinking heap of sweat, stare at a muddy surface, and cross his fingers that the ref blows his whistle for a reset. He was also instrumental in the demolition of the Welsh scrum in the Georgian win over Wales last year. He's just great for the game. Tier 2 nations need these kind of leaders to push their teams to never settle for mediocre. How can you go past the man-eater, who seems to keep getting bigger every year, Big Ben Tameifuna? He's the heaviest player at the World Cup, coming in at a whopping 151 kilos. I mean, how are you supposed to stop that 5 metres out? Bloody nightmare of a task. And he's been captaining the side, putting in huge shifts every game. The engine he must have to put in those minutes at that weight is astonishing. I found the locks pretty easy to pick. I'd be off my head to not pick Etzebeth. He's been terrorising forwards and backs alike on the international stage for over 10 years. Getting manhandled by him is a rite of passage to being successful at this point. And not to mention those bloody crazy eyes. I mean, bugger the rugby. Having someone on the field who can get stuck into the opposition like this is a perk in itself. Truly one of the best second rowers of all time. To complete the lock pairing, I've gone with McFarland. This guy is just a freak. I feel bad for all the players who clearly weren't built for rugby but worked their asses off to play anyway, because McFarland is just so naturally excellent and makes professional rugby look like under nines, often looking bored only to casually burst through the line while the opposition is still finishing their halftime oranges. His rugby smarts are second to none and his finishing is impeccable. Like, come on, this is a second rower we're talking about. Absolute freak. At 6, my captain is Kolisi. What a player, what a leader, what a man. It's no coincidence he is a World Cup winning captain, and there's no reason he can't do it again. His sheer will and determination is incredible. He has trust in his team and inspires them to work as one terrifying Bocker unit which just seems to keep getting better. He's a great ball runner, a line-out option, a workhorse. He's everything you want in a 6. And something about the way he sings when he's coming out of the tunnel is like, shit, boys are on. There's many ways to go at 7, but I've got a bit of a soft spot for that damn chiseled jawline. Charles Ollivon is my 7, and not just because he's the most gorgeous thing to ever grace a rugby field. He's the complete package, striding past defenders like the giraffe that he is, hitting breakdowns until the opposition gets bored of cleaning him out, and slowly working away at your ribs until you start to reconsider your life choices. Throw him up for a line-out, put him in a hole, take him on a date, give him the captaincy. He will succeed. Alright, moving on to number 8. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the old hypothetical, who do you think would win in a fight? Key determinants being scrap and whether or not someone has the dog in them. Savea invented scrap. He is the dog. And you'd be a fool to want anyone else at the back. Savea no doubt has the highest intensity and contact of any current player, making him an absolute pain to tackle because he just doesn't sit still. You try to go high and you get thrown off of him. You try to go low and you get a piston to the head in the form of his knee. Truly a generational player. He's carried the All Blacks through the mud of the last couple years and earns his teammates so much more space just because it takes half a squad to bring him down. There's no question at halfback. Dupont is the best player in the world. Anyone who thinks otherwise has been living under a rock or lives in the Southern Hemisphere. France will always be able to rely on territory when Dupont is on the field because his box kick is perfect. He kicks the absolute shit out of it, like against Scotland where he literally kicked the ball flat. Name anyone else who has done that. Then there's his offloading game, his awareness of space, his timing, his accuracy, and what could have been one of the best duos of all time with Intermac if he didn't get injured right before the World Cup. I mean, these two make Smith and Mwanga look like a couple of kids who just turned up to play because their dad wouldn't let them play football. And what I probably appreciate the most about Dupont's game is his defence. Halfbacks aren't supposed to be able to tackle. The whole point of them is that they're fun to run at and toy with. But Dupont is so deceptively strong, like this. How does he stop this? It's incredible. Okay, big decision. Fly half. I can hear a muddled medley of Irish and Scottish accents screaming for their respective generals. But I think I'm going to have to disrespect who I see as one of the GOATs in Sexton. Only because Russell is one of my favourite players to watch will I lean towards him. I mean, come on. The way he manoeuvres a defence makes you dizzy in like a glorious euphoric rush, leaving the defence looking equally intoxicated and bemused. Every time the ball leaves his hands, I get so excited because I have no idea who it's going to, but I know the pass will land exactly where it needs to be. The same can be said for his kicks. When the ball gets hoisted into the air, it seems like a waste, squandered possession, and many will call for luck when it lands right into the winger's arms. But for Russell, it's just another day at the office. Marika the Missile is a must-have on the wing. He has one of the best engines I've ever seen, and I'll pay anyone who can name a winger who works harder than he does. Just imagine the horror when you realise he set his sights on you. I guess you just have to be grateful you saw him coming, because people rarely do. He shoots out of the line and poleaxes you from absolutely nowhere. I think Mapimpi still hasn't recovered from the Marika effect, and I don't blame him. He's one of the only threats left in an imploding Wallaby side. There's a lot of deadly combinations you could form in the midfield. Any Irish, French, Kiwi or Lucanio arm-like player would do the trick. But as some of you may know, I'm a sucker for the flying Fijians. So this was inevitable. Tuisova is my inside, even if he wasn't built like a brick shithouse, and moved with an unfortunate amount of freedom for defenders. I'd still pick him just for those frickin' thighs of his. It's really no surprise the way defenders bounce off of him. Like, how are you supposed to get your arms around those things? The scary part is that it feels like he looks for contact, and the fact that he can offload as well is a joke. I'd be hiding if I ended up anywhere near him. Then of course we have Radradra at outside centre. I know he's not playing there at the moment, but he played some of his best rugby in 2019 there. I managed to find a way to talk about Radradra in every video I do, but it's for good reason. He's a menace. He's just got eyes that scream I'm better than you, because he is. No defensive line can withstand his charge, no man can run through him, and no corridor of space is too small for him to squeeze a freak offload into. And what about the beard on the man? He's on the team, don't argue. Straying away from Fijians for a moment, I've gone for a smaller deployment on the wing. He's the man who sparked the try that put Italy back on the map. Capuozzo. He's just so easy to like. Speed and passion, passion and speed. He's like a roadrunner the way he whips past opponents. He really lights up his team when he scores. The way he celebrates, it feels like you've scored too. Even when he's on the opposition, I start to question who I'm supporting. He's asserted himself as the face of this Italian rebirth and will be sure to turn Six Nations teams cross-eyed for years to come. And finally at fullback, we've got a guy who has to be one of the most electric players I've ever watched, and he's representing a Tier 2 nation at their first World Cup in 16 years. Nuno Guedes embodies everything this Portugal team is about. The passion, the flair, the freedom, the audacity. As a defender, you know when he drifts to your left that step is coming, but there's still nothing you can do about it. It's just so sharp. Not to mention his clinical kicking game at the back. He was bagging 50-22s like it was nothing against Georgia. And I know most people will remember him as the guy who missed a kick to win the game against Georgia, but I will remember him for that damn right foot of his. Alright, what a team. I'm frothing just looking at it. I'm sorry there's no Irish players. I'm not sorry there's no Welsh. I was going to do a bench, but I got a bit carried away. It would have been Schoeman, Montoya, Tupou, Beirne, Leitch, Arata, Sexton, Jordan. Would love to have Jock Campbell there too, but somehow he's not at the World Cup? Outrage. Anyway, let me know what you disagree with and I will ignorantly argue with you in the comments.